Hey, Trails Collective world. Ian here for the Trails Collective live episode for, originally airing here August 11th, 2022. Thanks for all of you who may tune in live this evening. And thanks also to all who may catch the episode after the fact. If you are catching us live and want to weigh in with a comment or a question for me or any of the guests, you can do so on the Trails Collective's Facebook page or YouTube channel, and we'll weave it in. And for those of you who might have a question or comment for any of us after the fact, feel free to drop it too, maybe on the Facebook thread or whatever channel, and we can also try to follow up with you. And so thanks again for being on here. Hopefully you're all having great summers. It is flying by on this end, but trying to maximize it. I just had a good excuse to finally get up and do the Pemi Loop up in New Hampshire last Friday. It's been on my bucket list for quite some time, that and the Prezi Traverse. And my two of my daughters being at camp up in Maine presented a really good opportunity to swing through and pick that one off. And it was great. For those not familiar with the Pemi Loop, it is in the Whites. Covers, if I remember right, maybe 8 of the peaks over the 4,000 foot mark, and with a few other side potentials if you wanted to pick them off. And I got a really beautiful day for it. It was Friday, so it was during the week. It wasn't that crowded. There's a projection for some rain and some thunderstorms coming through. And so that probably held some of the traffic at bay. Got a nice early start, set off from the trailhead around 4:20 or so. A little bit behind where I wanted to be, but was just getting what should have been a sunrise when I was first getting up into the opening peaks, and it was truly gorgeous. So I was really thankful for the opportunity. There were some people that I think I saw throughout, some hikers that had camped the night before and that were up on the first summit, I think just hoping to catch a sunrise. At that point, though, we were all socked in just clouds. I could see one in the far range or the far ridge where I'd be circling around in horseshoe format too. But otherwise, it was just really quiet up there. I think the next 3 peaks that I hit, I was the only person up there, and there was some clouds still coming through. It had rained the night before, and it was just a really serene, just beautiful time to be up there. At that point, it was opening on the Franconia Ridge. You pick off a few peaks there, and really nice just running. Before it goes into the crux of the Pemi Loop, just more rugged terrain for those of us that are used to East Coast running, whether it be any number of areas from some of the places in Virginia, West Virginia, most of Rocksylvania, Hudson Valley, the Greens, the Whites, Adirondacks, Catskills. Like, we're so used to so much technical terrain, and that's really was Pemi as well. And so it stayed pretty technical, I think, through to the opposing ridge, and probably until maybe like 6 miles out from the finish. But it was nice. So for any of you who have not already experienced some of, some of those iconic loops or circuits or whatever that are in our region, definitely check them out. I'm forgetting just in the moment, there is a site, I think somebody that just created, saw an opportunity in creating an entity where I think there's like 8 of the iconic stretches of the Northeast. It's like the Prezi and the Pemi and the Devil's Path, and I'm just forgetting some of the others off the top of my head, but cluster them all into one. So if any of you are listening and know what that is, feel free to drop it in here and I'll plug it. But it's definitely a beautiful list for any of you to be aware of and pick off for the Northeast. And so this was just one of them. So I was really, really thankful for the opportunity. So let's see what we got going here this evening. We have a number of guests that will weave in, as is usually the case. Just bringing you, there you go. Thank you, Jay. The Northeast Ultra 8 is that entity. And you can just Google that. So Jay, thanks for plugging in there. And Michael Brockway dropping it as well. Thank you for that. So check those out. Northeast Ultra 8 is I don't know. Oh, I think the Great Range, whatever. I'm just going to bring it up now here in the moment and tell you what it is, because it really does capture some of the most iconic routes in Northeast. So it is the Mahoosic Traverse in Maine, New Hampshire, the Cranberry 50 in New York, the Pemi Loop in New Hampshire, Taconic Crest Traverse, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Saranac 6 in New York, Presidential Traverse in New Hampshire, Great Range Traverse in New York, and the Devil's Path in New York. So truly beautiful. So check those out, add them to your list, and get them done. All right, so this evening, we are going to weave in a number of voices. Here in just a minute, I'll bring in Don Weise from the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference and just plug in the conference. And they did have a few open positions that are now filled, but we'll just plug the Trail Conference and what they have going on as well. We'll weave in, if he's able to join us, will be a friend, Ben Supron, who just finished off a thru-hike of both AT and the PCT. Brandon Perry on the Kanawha Trace 50K. Grayce Gillette-Langheine, I think we'll weave in just to plug one of the events that she's working on, the Slopeside Slumber Party. Maybe we'll just touch on how her preparations are going ahead of, she's in the mix for Eastern States 100 this weekend. Colleen Chase and Tom Hooper. Colleen with the win this past weekend at Ragged 50K, and Tom being the RD up there. So a bunch of great voices doing some pretty cool things. And then we'll wrap up somewhere around 8 or so. So feel free to plug in. Thanks to those who are already catching it, and to all of you, it makes the dialogue more colorful. So if you are catching it live, for sure, drop any questions or comments and we'll weave them in. All right, so let's go ahead and weave in Don. Don, thanks for being on, brother. It's good to see you.
There. How are you, Ian?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. I've been enjoying following your pictures from your Pemi Loop.
That was nice. It really was. Have you done Pemi or President?
No, I've done the presidential range, and that's about it in the area. So
yeah. All right. So Don,
that's amazing. So
Don is coming to us from the Mountain Lakes region of New Jersey. For those of you who don't know, that's even a geographical reality. You need to get yourself there because it really is a beautiful part of the world. He works the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference and literally has written a book, or actually 2 books at least, on trails in the Harriman area and beyond. He's worked closely with events including Sasquatch Running and some directed by Charlie Gattel, which contribute to the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. And as well as being a great ally and bouncing ideas off for several of my own events, and I imagine others. So Don, thanks for your continued work.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. So why not, if up for it, just plug maybe New York, New Jersey Trails Conference. I could do it, but it would probably be more effective coming from your voice, and maybe we just talk about a bit of the work they do, because there's so many of us that are using the work of that conference daily. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us what it's all about formally?
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I tell you, the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference is an organization that I got involved with when I was in my 20s, and it just blew me away. I first got involved with
that was like 2 years ago. So you've been with them for at least like 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah, I'm turning 60 this year. So wow, that happened, or it's about to. So, but I got involved looking at their maps and reading guidebooks and hearing about the organization, but I didn't really understand the depth of what they do. The first thing, and what we probably know them for, is for the care and maintenance and that of 2,100 plus miles of trails in far-flung places like the Catskills and heading up toward the Adirondacks. But the organization is it's an incredible volunteer machine. They put to work over 2,000 people every year as volunteers maintaining trails, which is a big job in itself. But then they're also preserving land. If you're familiar with the Schwangunk Ridge, the Southern Gunks have been an endangered ridge for a long time. And for the last 30 years, the organization's just been picking off one parcel after another, preserving that corridor, and now doing the same north of the Blue Line, the Catskill Blue Line, up toward Albany with the Long Path. So there's land preservation, there's the care and maintenance of trails, there's trail building, and then there's also control of invasive species, which are a huge problem out in the Hudson Valley, particularly the New York metro area. So just the work of the organization kind of blows me away, and I'm really glad to be part of it. But part of that is that we look for volunteers to do work, and you were kind enough to help me plug two vacancies, actually now three vacancies in the Catskills. And in the time that we talked, those volunteer vacancies have been filled. So it's fantastic. But if you are interested in getting more involved with the organization, or you'd like to volunteer, need some volunteer hours, you can just go to NYNJTC, that's New York, New Jersey Trail Conference.org, and then just click on Get Involved, and you can find all kinds of great opportunities. And so we do trail runs once a month, and lots of hikes and that, but our primary job is taking care of those trails and make sure they stay open for this year and for many, many years to come.
And it seems like you've been, and maybe just because, I don't know, maybe I was on my own bubble, and as I've tried to expand that a bit and get to know others and what other people are doing, maybe I'm just kind of have this inaccurate perception, but it seems like some of this historically mostly just hiker kind of oriented clubs who have done all this heavy lifting that the rest of us utilize have been at least successful in pulling in more of the trail running voices or trail running community, or bridging that gap, or bridging that maybe even divide. And it seems like you've kind of been one of those voices. Does that feel like that's been an intentional thing, or has it just been like a shift in demographic, or is there intention there?
Yeah, it's very intentional. I mean, the one thing that we understand is that people who enjoy the trails, on human power, whether that's feet running or feet walking, or even people riding mountain bikes, that we've got a special connection to the earth and to the trails. And it's different from those people, who don't. And we should be all together and working together. And it's been really exciting to see the trail running community in particular just kind of jumping on board, and as we were getting older, beginning to take that leadership role and becoming maintainers, becoming leaders. Our board is just full of trail runners, which is crazy. That never happened before.
Is that more of a newer shit? Yeah, you just said it. So that's never happened before. So I mean, clearly it's a pretty, not just intentional, but it's kind of happening anyway with the demographic of like, so one of the local sub chapters of the Finger Lakes Trail Conference in my backyard here, they were just having a harder time, I think, getting enough hands on deck to maintain some of these sections of trails. And part of it was really just the demographic was just aging out. And so they just weren't able to be as active, or they weren't able to do the heavy lifting. And so now that's almost maybe changed and opened up to just trail running being more common. So from my vantage point, it's pretty cool to see. And it really looks more unifying, and hopefully it'll be make it all more sustainable and powerful going forward.
Absolutely. And, it's a much easier jump for us to bring trail runners and hikers together than mountain bikers, although we're partnering quite a bit with mountain biking too, but it's a natural fit. And, I know trail runners 20 years ago were barely tolerated on the trails by a lot of hikers, and now they've just gotten used to seeing us. So it's a beautiful thing.
Cool.
And
yeah. Well, I appreciate being able to bounce possibilities off and get some suggestions, ideas from you all these years. I know I've said it, but just in person here, just want to say I'm very thankful for you being open hand there. And it's much appreciated, in addition to the formal work that you're doing for the trail conference. So thanks so much.
Right. And your organization gives back to the trails too, in lots of different ways. So we appreciate that.
Totally. All right, man. Well, thanks for taking some time. When you do have openings in the future, feel free to let me know again. And, maybe it'll be the case where they'll get picked off before we even get to air. But it's always welcome to have you back on and just plug anything that's out there.
Thanks, Ian.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
All right. So switching gears, Ben Supron.
Hello, Ian.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. It looks like you probably laundered that shirt since wearing it on the trail,
Yeah,
but it looks like a trail shirt.
Different shirt, but I realized in the camera, it was like, oh, it kind of looks like the same shirt.
Does look like on the same shirt. Mm-hmm.
No, different shirt, same hat though.
Good, bringing some good energy.
Yeah.
So for those taking in the episode in the moment, so Ben Supron, he's a friend, former employee, and most recently focused trail vagabond of sorts. Finishing off, I think it was a through effort on the AT, right? Was before this?
The northern half last year.
Northern half. Okay. And PCT. And he's an Ithaca, New York native, but I believe currently you mentioned you're coming to us from Texas at the moment.
Yeah, I'm visiting some family in Texas. During the school year, I'm at college at the University of Vermont.
Oh, right on. Okay, cool. And going into your sophomore year at this point, what are you doing?
And sophomore then I year? Off before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's good to see you. So what was the so picked off the northern half of the AT. Clearly you were into what you found, the days out there, the community that you found. It looks like at least one of your closing off northern AT sections looked like a big party scene of a finish. So clearly you kind of found a community out there.
Yeah, so it was kind of a funny way how I got into it. I had a group of friends, some Ithaca natives, and then other people from Cornell that I knew were through hiking last spring on the AT. And I met them at the halfway point, and I was just gonna hike with them for a weekend or a week. And then I was really having fun, and I just stayed for the last half, really. And then this summer, I was like, I want to do my own hike, and I knew I really liked what I had seen. And on the AT, it was like a very different style than what I did this year, where I was hiking with like 11 other people, and we were taking zeros in in a lot of the towns, and like not doing crazy mileage. And I knew this summer I kind of wanted to focus on the walking a bit more than I did last year.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're saying taking zeros, you're just taking days off, just kind of enjoying the
resting, like socializing in towns. I don't know, we had a lot of days that were like, oh, it was 100 degrees and we floated down the Delaware River or something like that, or just hung out at a hostel. Mm-hmm. This summer, I kind of wanted to see how much time I could just spend walking.
And so what was your target? And you finished in what, like 63 days or something to that?
No, so I finished in 78 days and 16 hours. And coming into it, I wanted to just hike in 100 days, which is like 26 and a half miles a day. And then pretty quickly in the desert, we started doing 30s, and it was like, oh, this is pretty nice. And I don't know, the trail was a lot easier than what I was used to, where like you really were just able to walk 3 miles an hour. And then once we got our legs underneath us, we were like, oh, like this is pretty nice, and we can go faster than 100 days. And we went through 1,000 miles, so through like most of the Sierra, and we were averaging 30 miles a day. And then from that point on, we really started walking, and we averaged 36 to the border for the last 6 months.
Yeah, man, that's solid. And to your reference earlier, the section you jumped on the AT, that northern section going up through the whites and the greens, and then, man, what Maine is, I've not really experienced, but I've heard it's just a behemoth in terms of technicality and how tough it really is up there.
Yeah. No, really, like, there's so much stuff. Like all the climbs are 1,000 feet per mile, and you're just not going to be moving super quickly on it. Whereas the PCT, it was all graded for horses. And so really it was like most climbs were 400 feet per mile, and like they were long, but they weren't that steep, and it like put a lot less strain on your body, just not the constant pounding of going straight downhill.
And for that one, it was you and it was a buddy pretty much through to almost the end.
Another Ithaca native, and we hiked all but the last 200 miles together, where he had he got hurt we had a tricky river crossing, and he lost his shoe in it and had to go into a town and wasn't sure if he was going to need to take some time off. He took a day off, but he wasn't sure if he would need more. And he told me to go on ahead. But then I waited for him in the last town after I finished.
And it was somewhat of a traumatic kind of stream crossing. It wasn't just kind of losing your shoe out there. It was like, I
kind of just made it seem like whatever. But it was like it was a spot where it was like right over waterfalls, and it was kind of peak snowmelt in the Cascades, where there was they got most of their snow in the middle or end of May. And it was like 100 degrees in Washington, so all of the snow was melting. And he slipped and got swept over these waterfalls. And really, I think everyone who was there and saw it was like, oh my gosh, he's dead. And he popped up downstream and came up and hadn't hit his head, hadn't broken anything, and got really, really lucky. And there was like a big waterfall just past where he had stopped, where he was able to grab onto something. And it was very good that he didn't go over that. But yeah, no, it was a situation that taught a lot about a learning experience for like risk in the outdoors, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that's a much different story than just losing your shoe out there and had to pull off the trail for a couple hundred miles.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like you always know something can happen, something can go wrong, but it definitely was a bummer that it happened right at the end, because it was like 200 miles from the finish, just a little.
Yeah, and that's crazy when you are out there, and right when the stakes are that much higher. I did a couple trips up to Alaska, and where we drove ways out there, and then we ended up getting a bush plane, and we took a bush plane and got dropped off a ways further out, just kind of as remote as we could get to a certain extent, and then just did this point-to-point hikes and got picked up by a bush plane in a different location. But in some of those where you are so remote and you've got no like contact otherwise, like even what seems like it would be a fairly mild stream crossing in just your backyard or whatever suddenly takes on this whole new significance or severity, and how much respect you need to kind of pay that stream crossing. Because if something like that does happen, you're kind of in a bad way.
That was like, it was still 12 miles from the nearest road via like a blue blaze down to a highway. And even that was pretty lucky, because it was like a 100-mile stretch of no roads there. So we were towards the end. And like had that happen in the middle, like he was fine walking out on his, or not fine, but he was able to make it out without the second shoe. But like had that been 50 miles over, like there's some more technical areas with snow, we got lucky. Definitely got lucky.
And so what, any other fun or like highlights out there to kind of dig into? Any points where you're just kind of, you remember just being like, wow, like this, I'm so grateful I have the fortune and basically in life in so many ways to be out there and to be able to do that? I mean, what were some awesome moments?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Washington, and because it was like you had Finnish fever at the end, and I had never been in the North Cascades before, and just like coming up there and you see all these like the snow-capped or the glacial volcanoes like Rainier and everything. It's really, there were a few days like coming through the Goat Rocks Wilderness where we hit that at sunset, and we're going along this ridge, and then you follow like a knife's edge down for a mile or two, and it really was just like, this is the most, like one of the most special places I've ever been, and just like so really grateful to be there, and just like all of that, all that the trail has to offer you. And let's see, and that stretch was when kind of towards the end we were like trying to see how big of miles we could push, and it was 93 miles in 2 days, and that was walked like almost entirely in the daylight without a headlamp, and so it was just walking all day. And that was like, it made me feel really good, because I've always loved just like seeing how much you can experience in one day, because it's like such a like empowering thing to like be on one side of this massive mountain at the beginning of the day. And, you know, over the course of the day, you're experiencing all these different little valleys and everything. But then your view of the mountain is also just shifting. And you can just look back at the pictures and see like all that you experienced in that day. And it's really like, because some people are like, oh, you're missing out going fast. But when you're moving quickly, like if you're sleeping good and you're feeling good, you really can just, it's like increases the amount of stuff you can experience in a day. And so those, the 2 days through the Goat Rocks Wilderness, where I was like moving really well, had figured out efficiency for just like not stopping and not taking off your backpack all day and just eating while you're walking. Felt really dialed through there. And then let's see, my last day also, 51-mile day, and I talked to everyone I passed, and it was a beautiful day. And there were lots of marmots everywhere in these green valleys that had snow melt running through them and a little bit of snow left. But I was just like, I really was just so filled with gratitude. Yeah.
And so for 78 days out there, coming back into the world as it is when you're not just on the trail, particularly maybe back into Texas and getting back into school, that's gotta be somewhat of a transition.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a shift. I'm glad to be going back to school, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into using my body once I kind of rest back up. Because right now, like, I definitely had lost more weight than I wanted, and a few aches and pains on my body that definitely have been enjoying some rest. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do this fall. And I'm glad to be going back to school right away, have something to do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then take some time to chew on it, or in all the days and hours out there, you're like, all right, this is what's next after we finish this one.
Yeah, I think I would like to hike this Continental Divide Trail next summer, I think, ideally. Definitely have some details. And if not next summer, probably the summer after that. And then this fall, I would like to put in a longer effort than I previously have, and maybe try and do 100-mile either in a race or maybe not, maybe just on my own, just seeing how I can, because I've never gone really that far, and I think I know my body would handle it pretty well right now.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Imagine you're moving quick enough, and you pretty much covered pretty close to it, so I'm guessing you'd be fine. Well, if you want to take a couple weeks off here and come join us for the Virgil Crest 100, September 10th.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to talk to you actually. Yeah,
right on.
Okay.
Well, Ben, man, it was good to see you. It's good to see occasional photos along the way. I was a little bit too saddled in a pretty nuts event window, but I'm thankful. I think Elizabeth and Ellie were at least a little bit in contact there. So nice work. I'm glad that it all went well. And thanks for taking out a little bit of your time here tonight to chew on it.
Of course, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Have a good
one. All
right.
I'll see you in the starting line on September 10th then.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see you. Bye.
All right, dude. See ya. All right. Shifting gears again. Brandon.
Hey.
Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. All right. So Brandon Perry is coming to us from Cross Lanes, West Virginia. Is that right? On the hometown?
Yeah.
Right on. And I think per the quick Facebook stalk, work for the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, just ethics department and everything. So fancy HR. That's what it is. I'm one of the bad guys. I'm one of the bad guys. And everything. I'll say it like that.
Well, I guess if it's a double negative there, it kind of turns it into a positive.
Well, no, you can. Super bad is. I'll put it like that.
All right. Become a fixture on the regional trail scene for sure around that West Virginia area. Fresh off, I believe it was your 6th Kanawha. Is that how you pronounce it?
Kanawha. It's Kanawha Trace. You can quickly tell who's from in town and out of town. You'll hear Kanawha, you'll hear Canada, you'll hear random stuff, and it's like, no, it's Kanawha. So you actually said it. That's good.
I think more times over in the course of the past couple of years when it's been on my radar. I think I've actually said it very much incorrectly.
But you said it correctly, and then you said it earlier, and I was like, oh man, well, he must be from around here, maybe. I don't know. That's good.
Yeah, very much not. Well, I don't know. I guess I grew up in rural kind of Amish country PA, so I'm not too far off, but definitely not the mountain country.
Well, I guess I was up in your area a few weeks ago too, as well, for Ironstone. So yeah, That's okay.
Yeah. And the beast that was. So nice one.
I'm still trying to get over that one mentally. I don't want to. If I don't see a boulder for the rest of the year, good. I'm good.
You're good. Yeah. I think Ben, when he was first letting me know that he was working on an event and kind of setting a proposed course my way, it's like, yeah, I mean, that sounds nice. You can be up high on these ridges or whatever. And I'm really, really grateful that I didn't take him up on the offer to come down and run it. I
just don't understand who would say in their spare time, hey, let's go on this trail. Let's just walk around. Let's just cause it's not enjoyable. It's not, I'm having flashbacks. So it's just like, it was fun. I'll put it like that.
Yeah. Well, that's quite the, I don't know, man, that's burly, and I'm sure more people will tackle it and maybe you'll go back just because it's such a challenge.
During it, I was running with a guy and we were saying, we're one and done. And then we get done with it the next couple of days. He lives up in your area. We message each other. We go, yeah, we're probably going to do this again next year. I say, yeah, we have to. I mean, because just as much as we hated it, it was more a strategic type of race. It wasn't like a runner's race or whatever like that. And so I put it on my Facebook status. If you're looking to PR 100K, this is not it. But if you want for an experience, and that's exactly what I got. We got lucky with the weather. A cold front came through a couple of days before. So if it was in the mid 90s or 100, I don't know what my experience, but we got lucky with the weather. We had decent weather for that.
Yep. And some of those areas, like even just up on the Pemmy New Hampshire last week, like in that middle section, I knew it was going to be rugged, whatever you're in the whites, but there's a piece of my brain that was still really hoping for a little bit more runnable terrain. And I kept processing just how fast some of the people that will put down some like the FKT range on those. Completely mind-boggling how people run fast over.
It's like a skill, and it's something you can't simulate. I mean, for other trail like elements, you can go on the road and simulate certain sections. You can go in the gym, but for that stuff, you just got to get out there and do it and everything like that. And so, And there's certain areas, that's so much on, for sure in the Northeast in terms of just the rugged nature of everywhere. Like it seems like if that's all there is, that's all there is. But when you get into running certain sections of Pennsylvania, where I feel like I've gone through some of those kick rock stretches, and I'm just like, dude, there's got to be like a less technical trail, like 50 meters over there. Like, why? What are you doing? Like, why am I even? Come on, reroute this course. You had the RD for Ironstone a couple weeks ago on there, and I was listening to him, and he was saying how late stages of races you get that shuffle. And he wanted his course to where you couldn't do that. And with this course, you couldn't do that because every other step you're looking down at, all right, you get different sections of rocks. This is a big rock. This is a little is this rock move? Is this rock stable? And then we're between that and looking at it was so mentally draining because you're trying to maintain, a 17-minute pace working. A 17-minute pace and everything like that. And then you're trying to find a blaze at night because it was one of those courses to where he flagged the turns, but you're looking for blazes and everything like that. And I don't know if that's a Pennsylvania thing or not, but it's just the fact that it was not a lot of, which was fine and everything, but you got so tired of looking down than looking up at a blaze because that's the last place you want to do. You're not doing all that work to get lost and everything like that. That's how I've retired from running. I would have quit right there. I would have been done. So, yeah.
All right. So for Kanawha Trace, this was your sixth, right? I think.
This was six. This was my first 50K back when I was getting started at all this.
And that was 2015 was your first?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Yeah. And so that's a bit of a shift where you get some, for sure, technical running in West Virginia, but this course is pretty fair, right? And give us some of the kind of overview of kind of the course of what this event's all about.
Pretty fair. We start early in the morning, 6:00 start, and the first 2 miles are on pavement, so it gives everybody a good chance to kind of
spread out and everything like that. And so, your Caleb Bowens, your Holly Ann Swans, they're already in the trailhead by the time half of us get to that mile 1, mile 2. They're already kind of deep in there and everything, but they kind of bookend the hills. We climb. I say we get 1,600 feet in the first 3 or 4 miles. So we're slowly, which is good and bad. You're fresh, but I think some people don't know how much you're actually working until a little later. And because also it's an August ultra, we have humidity obviously around here, just like you all have it and everything like that. And so that's a factor, but we have everything from paved road, technical trail, smooth trail. We'll have gravel. There's a section of I want to say a 5 or 6 mile section where we go through. I call it, for the new people that come here, this is West Virginia in a nutshell, because we run past older houses, we run past a couple farms. You'll hear the chickens, you'll hear all that type of stuff and everything. So if you want to tour West Virginia, but you don't want to have long ultra, Kanawha Trace is for you, because you get West Virginia in a nutshell in one morning, pretty much.
That's great. And the field size, how big is the?
This year we only had, I want to say 65, 70 started, and it's been weird with because COVID. It was last year we had the race officially. The 2 years beforehand were canceled because of COVID and everything like that. And so it was, first off, this is a 10, 25, and a 50K. So 3 races going on kind of at the same time. We started at 6. The 25 and the 10 start at 8 at different locations. So we get bused. It's one of those things, a point to point. So we park at the finish, we get bused to the start, and we're literally just working our way to the finish and everything like that. So we had about 60 some, but I want to say most of your crowd is in the 25K and everything like that. So, but I think we had on paper 65 or 66 start, which is not bad. It's not bad and everything like that. So.
And you can still move, and it's pretty fair. Is it something like 6K gain for a 50K, or what?
Yeah, it's on paper. I mean, it depends on how your watch is. It's in the mid 445, 4,600 feet worth of.
Okay.
But you get it all in sections and everything. Like the first half, you'll get it, and then from miles 7 through. You have a good amount to where if you're feeling really good, you can fly. It's a lot of downhill road, flat road, gently rolling road to where if you're feeling it that day, you can fly. But at the same time, at the very end, the last 5 miles, you're pretty much, it's kind of like a heart rate. You're on the ground, like it's a lot of up and down. And what's good and bad about that is, around mile 25 or 26, you're working your way up and down. You're technically in camp. Your car is probably a mile away from it, but you still have about 5 or 6 miles to go and everything like that. So that's how, it's kind of good and bad, but it's a good amount of technical. This was my first ultra and everything, and so I was looking for something that wasn't. This isn't easy. Don't get me wrong. This is not easy at all, but it's not hard. It's not going to scare somebody away, I don't think.
Yeah. And so to keep going back, with this being your 6th one at this point, even though is it just because it's local? What keeps bringing you back to?
Yeah, it's super local. I'm about a 25, 30-minute drive from there. It is the only down, I love the trail system, but if you're around here, the only downside, which is the main downside, it is like all the ticks want to come and just hang out in that section. It's like they have their summer meetings in that section right there and everything. And so I love the trails, but you could literally get out of your car and you might have a tick on you because they just know you're there and everything. And you know how it is. One tick can ruin, the rest of your summer or whatever like that. But it's super local. There's a lot of competitive, non-competitive runners around here. So it's one of these races where everybody kind of knows each other a little bit for the most part and everything like that. We have our race director, new race director, Bob Luther, good friend of mine, running buddy of mine. The new race director this year. And so a little different. It's a family atmosphere. We get together the Friday before. There's a big dinner. They have a kids race the day before and everything. We got lucky with the weather. It was good weather this year and everything. And so it was supposed to rain actually Saturday. It didn't until later on. And so it's just a good family type of environment. It's a mini, I'm sure you're aware of Highlands Sky and everything. Yep. A mini version of that as far as people getting together, hanging out, knowing each other, that type of feel.
Mm-hmm. And a classic one there. I think you've run 1 or 2 Highland Skies, right? If I'm
I got my 5-year hat.
Oh,
this
5
year.
year.
Yeah, I didn't know
great.
until I crossed the finish line. The guy gave me a hat, and I said, "I guess I've been here 5 times." And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that continues to be a bucket list in terms of just a cultural race for sure in the Northeast, but one that just goes back. And I've heard nothing but good things about how beautiful the course.
Oh man, and this year was the year because we actually had good weather. Usually, like I said, that's in June, so it's hot. But I wore a long sleeve to the start, and everything. And the only downside of Highlands, up at the very top, is called the Road Across the Sky near Dolly Sides. We had about a 30, 35 mile an hour crosswind and everything. Mm-hmm. And so, but I was telling some of my running buddies, if I'm complaining about the wind, and that's my main complaint about in the summer.
Things are all right.
We're doing okay. We're doing okay today here. So we're good.
That's a win. Yeah. Right on. Well, cool. And what you got coming up? What else is on the calendar for this year?
Yeah. No Business 100 here in October and everything. This will be my second 100.
And No Business is a point-to-point, also fairly mile.
It's a point-to-point, but it's a 100-mile loop. It's a Kentucky-Tennessee border and everything like that. And so I'm interested. Like I've been trying to just every year I'll run some of the local things. I try to pick a couple new areas. That's why Pennsylvania was my first time running up there and everything, because I heard about the rocks and everything like that. And
of all the races in PA that you choose, that's your
And a couple of people that I run with, I said, we're one state down. We have rocks too. We got, so that's fine. But then I put on there like my status after the race. I said, we don't have those rocks. I said, I don't know, but after No Business, the next only major one, I'm hoping to get back into Hellgate 100K at the end of the year. So I did that last year for the first time. So I want to go back with that. So, yeah.
Hellgate, another one is oddballs. Well, sorry I missed you there last year. The better part of me says I should not sign up for Hellgate again, but maybe I'll find myself on the.
What year did you do it?
Just last year.
Okay. So
I started a couple years ago in one of the cold years, but I busted up my ankle like 3 miles in, so I didn't finish. So
apparently, I guess we had a good year last year as far as weather.
As mild as it gets for the most part,
Yeah.
Except that fog was nuts, but otherwise and
then a little bit of a wind up top, because I was hearing from the locals like, where's the weather at? And I'm like, well, it's windy out here. I mean, I guess it's not perfect or whatever.
Yeah. As soon as we were punching out of that fog, I kept feeling like there was like a truck that was about to run me down on some of those roads the whole time. I kept looking over my shoulder, literally thinking it was a truck that was about to run me over, and it just kept being that wind. Yeah. Either I froze or you froze, Brandon, on that one. But I'm still seeing Tom Hooper's eyes blink, and Colleen, getting her hair there, and Grayce just looking like hot pants. There you are, Brandon.
We're back. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened.
Not at all. No, that's good.
Okay, but in the Hellgate leaves, I heard about those and everything like that.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what's worse, the ironstone rocks that y'all have, or the fact that you're stepping in.
Not knowing what's under there.
You don't know. And it's like,
don't know.
Am I going to fall? Am I going to run? I don't know. We'll just see. And I'm hoping
it could be Pennsylvania rocks under those leaves.
And I'm trying to, map my steps with the person in front of me. But, So, but I want to go back to that one too and everything. So,
all right. Well, if I act stupidly, I'll see you back down there, maybe in.
Well, I guess whenever the mail-in signups come out, I guess I need to make sure you're coming, because I want a bad weather year. I've heard about the Hellgate. I've heard about it. I want to experience that and everything like that. So hopefully this year it'll be 7 inches, 8 inches.
Oh man! All right. Well, I hear you, but at the same time, it's like,
oh no! Don't get me wrong. I'm going to regret it during, but right now, now it sounds perfect. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Right on. Well, Brandon, nice work on another Kanawha finish, and thanks for taking a bit of your time out here tonight to join us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. All right, I'll talk to you more later.
See you.
All right, see you. All right. And Grayce, I almost wove you in there. I saw you getting a kick out of the Pennsylvania Rocks discussion there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been over that stretch, right? Was that in part of the long efforts you did was what ended up being on the Ironstone course?
I don't think so. No, I've been up there though.
Yeah. Yeah. And enough to know that maybe it was not a good idea to run Ironstone.
Yes, absolutely. Not this year, at least. Maybe another year. But I mean, it's something that we're just used to here. I think one of our favorite things when we have races, and Frozen Snot is a classic one, is listening to people from out of state and their exclamations and you just don't know what it's like until you get here and you run something like that. Run. Right.
Run. Right. And I guess, right, speaking of Frozen Snot being an awesome event and where it is, and you get some crazy years, I guess, Brandon, what you were just mentioning with the Hellgate there on what would be a Snowgate or an Ice Gate year, or whatever. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, Frozen Snot would be a microcosm of what Hellgate, I guess, could be in that regard. And yeah, it's pretty nuts. So what, aside from probably being very anxiously mixed feelings with Eastern States on deck for you, and what are you, 48 hours away from start time? Where are we here?
Yeah,
36
something
hours?
like that. 5 a.m. Saturday. We'll see what happens. It's like all the stars are aligning, except my my Achilles is really mad at me right now. So I have the weather right now is looking like a high of 78, if you can believe that, a low of 48. And this is a notoriously hot race. And my crew, I have 2 crew, Lacey and Barb. I have one of them is a nurse for disabled children.
Because you're going to be a disabled children by mile 60.
Child.
Yes.
And then the other one's a physical therapist.
Which you will very much need at that point as well.
And then my pacers are Julia, who's a great friend of mine, and she will keep me entertained, and she knows that area really well. And then Ellie Pell. Well, why are you running with me, of all people? That makes no sense. She's
running.
Like, hey, running, right. And she's like, well, I wanted to get some footage of the course. I'm like, well, if you wanted somebody to hang out with where you could catch up very easily, I'm your gal. That's me.
Yeah.
So I like the best group ever, best weather. The water's fairly low, and my foot's mad at me. So we'll see how it goes.
So more just this week, or has been 4 weeks?
Has been. It started up, and it's. I think the root cause of it is my Mason-Dixon FKT back in March. My calves were incredibly sore, and it never let up. And about halfway through Laurel Highlands, I started to feel a little bit of a pull in the back of my heel, and that has it has not let up. And if I continued running, it would have gotten worse, and eventually got diagnosed with insertional Achilles tendonitis with slight calcification. Yeah. So not where I wanted to be going into Eastern States, and I haven't been running at all since Laurel Highlands, except to try out here.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going out for the win or the podium or whatever, that maybe makes a bigger difference. I mean, I know there's still the time cut, and you still gotta push to get under those. But at the same time, that's not all bad, right? Because then you're just going into like a fast hike, a lot of it anyway.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I have the right shoes and
the Cascadia, so at least you've got a higher a drop, so maybe that's going to unweight your calf and Achilles a bit.
Yeah. So if I can keep everything in check, I mean, Georgia Death Race, I went into that race with a pretty high level of knee issues, and I was able to manage that pain and just stay moving. But these longer distances, it's a lot of hiking anyway. So
yep,
we'll see how it goes.
Well, hopefully it goes awesome.
Yeah. No matter what, it's beautiful out there and amazing people. So I don't see how I could walk away with having a bad time. It's going to be a great time, and I really miss the trails right now.
So cue us into what you've been concocting on the back end. What you got going?
Yeah. So in the middle of all this, it's been kind of nice because I am also opening up a new race, the York Ridge Runners down here in York County, which is a branch of the York Roadrunners. York Roadrunners has been around since the 70s. Pretty big group, been around for a long time. A lot of great runners with just a very chill vibe. I've been race directing one of the races of the winter series for 4 years now, I think. Maybe the fourth running. So because there were COVID years and everything. And the winter series, without any marketing, just gets a huge amount of participants, because every time you come back, everybody knows your name and everybody's really chill. And so down here in York County, we have very happy race vibe and also low cost races we really like. So usually, you can do a pretty great, the whole race winter series, I think is less than $50 for 8 races total. Mm-hmm. So the York Ridge Runners has been working on creating a trail series and pulling in some existing races into that trail series. On the Rocks Trail Run, Hex Hollow Half, Squirrely, Sasquatch. I know I'm missing one, and then we're adding a couple of new ones. So I started on the board there a couple of years ago, and everybody knows that I love to do little fat ass races here and there. So everybody was pretty excited to give me a chance. And Eric Ferry came up with the idea, and then he pitched it over to me and said, have at it and make it however you want. And that's to do the race at our local ski resort. Which is Round Top Mountain Resort, but everybody knows it locally as Ski Round Top.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Ski Round Top has been around for a long time. It is the highest point in York County.
Now, is it more round on top, or is it kind of oblong? And it's probably because they didn't have drones back then, they couldn't actually tell, and they just kind of said it was round.
I believe it's a perfect circle, actually.
That's fair. That's a good call on their part. Okay, sorry, proceed.
No, it's like the land is flat, and then it just boop. There's this little boop.
There it is. Yep.
And everybody loves the place locally. It's a lot of fun to go skiing and snow tubing there, and they've been starting to dabble in some other summer activities. So we approached them about doing a race there. I wanted to do something a little different. We don't really have any night races down here in York County. So I wanted to do something at night. And then I was talking with you actually about a couple of things, and light bulb hit in my head. I'm like, ooh, Slopeside Slumber Party. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to do. So it's a nighttime 3-hour looped event. And I wanted it to be open to absolutely anybody, whether somebody is a really super elite runner or a back of the pack runner like me. And so it's a 3-hour timed event. And if you're somebody like me, in order to give me a chance to do enough loops to make it worth my while, it's got to be pretty short. So it's a mile and a half. It's a little bit shorter than a mile and a half, and about 600 feet of gain. Yep. So it's a half mile flat, half mile up, half mile down. And the great part is the party at the end. There is a lodge with a huge deck, and you can literally watch runners run at you toward the finish line, kind of tumble down this mountain. You can see them all the way from the top. And so it's a great view of them coming down. and it's all lighted. So even though it's a night race, that downhill of the course is all going to be lit since it's on a ski slope, and you get to watch everybody come down, drink a beer on the patio, have some s'mores, and hang out. And I kind of wanted to create this party atmosphere where it's, even if you're not running that day, if you're tired from Eastern states, you just come over and hang out, and there's no registration or anything like that. We just have this big party and watch people tumble down the mountain.
Does it start at like 9 p.m. or something? What's the start time?
8 o'clock, 8 to 11.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be the trial year. And if everything goes really well this year, then we're hoping to extend it until later in the night next year.
And you said pajamas are not the swag item.
Pajamas are not, but pillowcases are.
Pillowcases are. And
pillowcases are the swag because pillow fights, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And as everybody comes around for each loop, and I got this idea from Hamster Wheel, which is up in New Hampshire. Awesome race. I had a lot of fun there last year. They give out these little wooden tokens, and then you put them on a chain, and you kind of have this little souvenir for all the loops that you do. I'm like, well, I don't want to take their idea because that's their cool thing. And somehow it popped into my head to do pogs. So if you remember pogs from the 90s.
I didn't really remember pogs. Was my I don't know what that is.
Oh, man. In middle school, it was a whole deal.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
Okay, so your middle school was not necessarily my middle school years. So maybe I was just like,
you may have been a little too old for it.
Maybe the young kids are playing with pogs. I don't know what they're playing with, but it's clearly not what I'm playing with. All right, but
it was there were fights that would break out in school. They got banned from schools.
So basically, you're just looking to put on an event where you're just people are going to be starting to fight over kind of what you're going to be.
That's the plan. It's
out there.
You've got pillowcases to hit people with. S'mores, that'll make a mess, and fight over pogs.
And the pillowcases, because I want them to be flannel, will they look kind of like Tom's shirt there? Will that
that would be great. They're not. They've got our race logo on it. I want everybody to fall asleep dreaming about the trails.
So if I had the technical know-how to basically take your race logo, which is out there, and just kind of put it over Tom's face, and then with the pillowcase underneath, that's maybe kind of what I was hoping for there.
That's what it would look like.
All right. And then slumber parties, me being maybe a young adolescent male when maybe slumber parties were happening, I probably would have wanted the at least possibility that maybe there would be some hooking up happening. I'm not sure whether that's going to be permitted, but I mean, that's if that's in the cards, I don't know.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I will say that we are going to have Twister there. So you could meet somebody at the Twister board.
You can kind of get at least you're touching somebody else.
Exactly. I'm bringing I'm bringing glow sticks. So you could make your own rave, invite somebody to it.
It's good.
We'll have bottles to spin, I think. And we'll watch people tumble down the mountain.
Awesome. All right. And what's the race date?
Not this Saturday, next Saturday. So it's the 20th. Registration is still open, keeping the field small so that we don't have too much congestion out there, but
and fights over pogs. And you want to limit the mass hysteria. Yeah,
exactly. We want to be able to see everybody in that fight. And I will also say that it is a great one to bring along friends and family because it's one of the few races that you can actually spectate. So very cool event, excited. And even, like I said, you can just come and hang out with us. We're going to have fun.
Right on. Good job thinking a bit out of the box there, creating something. And hopefully this is your first RD experience.
No, I've been RDing some Fat SF. I RD one of the winter series races. There's a master RD. So I'm she does a lot more of the hard stuff. And I also do a trail running camp in the summer, which I've been doing for a couple of years. So this is the first one that has been on ultra sign up that's a little bigger. And
now it's legit and trackable with the ultra.
I feel legit. I've been sneaking into the RD world for a few years now, for about 5 years, and now I'm
slippery slope.
And I'm big girl pants. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Grayce, I hope that it goes really well. I hope you get some people on deck. I hope it's a lot of fun. And I hope that this weekend is awesome.
Thanks so much. Check us out, York Ridge Runners, and hope to see you at the party.
All right. And this is, plug the name one more time for people that want to search it.
Slopeside Slumber Party.
So slide, though, you should probably get some sort of a little
slide.
tarp coming down with a little hose at the top those who are just kind of want to finish down the slip and slide.
Yeah, I do that at Frozen Snot.
I don't want to slip and slide where it's frozen. Like that makes me
it's a lot of fun,
uncomfortably cold. All right. Well, I hope it goes awesome, and I will catch up with you hopefully after Eastern at some point.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. See you, Grayce. All right. One more gear shift into Colleen and Tom. Thanks for being on and patient on that back end.
No problem.
Thanks, Ian.
Totally. Tom, good to see you again. Colleen, it is nice to meet you digitally here, virtually. Yeah. All right. So in this gear, Colleen Chase is coming to us from, are you Princeton, Mass? Is that?
Yeah. Princeton, Mass. Not Wachusett.
Yeah. And fresh off of a PR, right? Because this was your second ragged, and went from 8th to 1st here at the 50K.
Mm-hmm.
And you're listed twice on Ultra Sign Up, but it's just you didn't do the stage race, right? You just did the straight 50K.
No, just the 50K. Yeah, not the stage race yet.
Yep. And at least per my results, quick Ultra Sign Up stalk there. You newer into the trail ultra scene, at least what Ultra Sign Up is grabbing. So are these your kind of first 3 events in under your belt?
Yeah, definitely. So I did ragged last year and this year, but that's pretty much it for ultra distance. So it's been a great introductory event, and yeah, definitely loving it so far.
Right on. And you also have one FKT under your belt, right? Which is the 42-mile Robert Frost Trail in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's correct. That was my COVID pandemic project when looking for something to do.
That's a good project. And so relative, I mean, that's pretty close to Princeton, not too far away.
Yeah. So my husband and I are both PhD students at UMass Amherst. So we're kind of back and forth between Princeton and Amherst. So Amherst is also sort of our backyard. So the Robert Frost Trail is where I do a lot of my training and running. So it's an awesome little trail out there. And so decided to sort of link it all together one day and have a good time.
So are you running prior? What's the background athletically?
Yeah, so I've been running since middle school. I've mostly just track and cross country, so a lot shorter than what I'm getting into now. But I ran through college. I ran at UMass Amherst, so mostly 3K runner, steeplechase on the track. And then, after college, sort of started gradually ramping up, mostly on the roads, tried some half marathons, ran Hartford Marathon to qualify for Boston. And but now, definitely getting into the trails. So we have the Seven Sisters trail race out in Amherst, Mass. So also right in the backyard. So that was sort of our introduction into the trail scene, and fell in love with it.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess that a little bit of testament to your, you don't shy away. I was a steepler through college as well, and I ran for Ithaca, so we would have crossed over with some of the UMass programs. But I was probably steepling around the time you were born, maybe. So I missed you by a few years there.
Yeah, just a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. But speaking to your steeple background, didn't shy away from tough things. So I guess a fit to move on to some trail there. Seven Sisters, not an easy one to pick off, but a classic, good first one. And then, but jump into the kind of the 42 mile. I mean, that's not your typical, I don't know. I'm just going to go out and run 42 miles there because that's not a small distance.
Yeah. I mean, was just sort of looking for a challenge, and I knew some folks that had run it, sort of in the running community around there. And it was, I was already out there every day running anyway. So decided to sort of string it all together, and I wanted a challenge. I knew I liked some of the longer trail stuff, and I'd been eyeing some, trail races and looking at doing one, but everything was canceled at that time. So decided to find one and make it happen.
And what are you PhDing in?
Kinesiology. So movement of the human body. So very, very fitting. I study what I practice. Yeah.
And do you think about that a lot when you're out on the trail? Do you think about how you're moving and how that looks like from a side vantage point?
Not so much. No, I'm in behavioral medicine, so more of how we can help people with behavior change for becoming more physically active. So just basically helping people to find ways that they can be active in a more approachable manner than maybe something like a 50K. But so we design physical activity interventions, and especially with kids and teens and adolescents, to become more active.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's great. It'd be cool to follow along more with your work there.
Yeah.
And then Tom, sorry to be talking on my screen. You're in the center, but so technically sorry to be talking around you. I was kind of, looking over to get to Colleen on the screen there, because you're right in the middle. Right. I'm trying to talk to her and you're kind of right in the middle, dude. But good to see you.
She's the important one. That's all that matters.
Well, without you, she wouldn't have some place to go, see what she could do out there. So most of you at this point, on your own probably, or if you caught some prior episodes, hopefully caught maybe the holiday special or two, are familiar with Tom Hooper. Tom Hooper, the point person, 603 racing up in New Hampshire, directs a number of quality events, pretty cool events. Even though I don't think I've yet to make it out to one of your events.
You've been to zero races. I know.
It's
signed
shameful.
Up for a lot of them. Haven't made one.
Shameful. Shameful.
Did I sign up for Whiteface? Did I show up for Whiteface? I can't remember. All right, just making sure.
You absolutely did.
One.
I know, and it's not like I wasn't just in New Hampshire last week when Ragged was running. I know. I own the shame on that one. Yeah. But puts on a number of awesome races. One of these years, I will get up to Kismet. Starting to coach has made that a little bit trickier, but it will happen at some point. But tell us a bit about Ragged, and especially because I think that it's pretty personal for you, right? I mean, you really dug into that course and did quite a bit of kind of labor and love up there to open it back up and kind of make it what it is.
Right. I mean, it takes a lot to put it on. It's not the whites, right? So it is these trails. Some of these trails haven't been touched by anybody this year. We're the first ones to go on it. So there's 30 plus miles of us weed whacking to make these trails connect from one section to the other section. It's such a cool race. It's just every day is different. So for the stage race, you have two climbs. Second day you have one climb, but it's a bigger climb. And then the third day is just you have to be a Swiss Army runner, a Swiss Army of running. You have some tar, you have some dirt, you have some Jeep trails, you have some rock scramble. You basically see everything, and it's built backwards. It's really fast in the beginning, and then at about a mile 11, it starts to get progressively much harder until the last 3 miles, which are extremely difficult. So, yeah.
And does that sound about right, Colleen, in terms of your experience out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it catches you by surprise if you don't know it the first time, because you kick off on these roads and you're cruising along, and then it takes about as long to do the last 3 miles as the first 13. So,
that's pretty awesome. And as we were texting a little bit, Tom, there, and obviously this year, some hot, humid conditions. So as an RD, definitely a stress and a worry. And then for you, Colleen, in terms of just carnage management out there, how to go for both of you in your own regards.
Well, Colleen go
Tom,
first.
You can go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think just lots of water and salt, and just trying to take in as much as possible. And the aid stations were fantastic with the volunteers. They were just helping. They were filling the packs and helping get everything ready. So I definitely, I felt very prepared throughout. And I mean, it sort of worked out. We've had this heat wave for a while leading up to the race. So it wasn't, it didn't feel like a shock to the system, sort of been used to sweating so much. So and I thought it was sort of what I expected going in.
Mm-hmm. For us, it was more supplies, and we bring about 240 gallons of water each day. Ice, is just being proactive on it. With the stage racers, it was complete carnage. I think we had 46 start, we had 29 finish. So huge DNF rate. The second day was just so brutally hot, and we just had people dropping left and right. Third day before the start of the race, the 50Kers show up, and I get I get what they're doing, and I get that they're great runners. But some of these guys are showing up with handhelds, even though we've really explained, whether it's a hot year or not. We've said, explained, you will not make it if you go with just one handheld. Even with 5 minutes left, I was in the front row telling these guys, I'm like, don't do it. And they didn't listen. And by that last road, New Canada Road, they were walking. They were. It's just really hard to do it with one handheld. But I think overall on the third day, because of Friday and Saturday, that weather, I think everybody knew they were going to have to be slower, except for Colleen, who had a PR. So.
Mm-hmm. And cruising. And so, Colleen, is that your experience of the course as well in terms of just getting progressively harder? Did you feel pretty good? Were you kind of loosening up? You're still really getting used to your ultra legs out there and finding out kind of what you can do late in the race. Did you kind of keep progressing and where it felt pretty strong?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot from the first year. And so it felt very, very smooth, very consistent, very controlled. And just throughout the whole thing. And I think I was very fortunate. I had two men that we ran almost the entire race together, which was fantastic just to have that companionship and suffer out there together. But yeah, so it just felt very controlled the whole time, and then let it rip on the last downhill. And the course definitely gets progressively harder, but just knowing that in advance and planning for that and being mentally ready for it to just get harder and harder was a huge help from last year.
Yeah. And anything you would have changed? Anything you learned from round 2 here that you'd do differently for next year in this progression?
I don't know. Maybe the stage race is up next.
Mm-hmm. And stage race, you referenced some of the climbs. Is it similar terrain though as well? Similar like footing and.
Yeah. Sunapee is the second day, and it's not more technical. So it's a loop. So the very first day you climb ragged. The third day you climb ragged. So you're going back up to get to the finish line. But first day is ragged and Kearsarge. Second day is just Sunapee. Third day is bog and ragged. So it's very similar. Each day has Jeep Trail, tar, rock scramble. You really have to be good at everything.
Mm-hmm. Right on. And of your lineup, do you have an affinity for, I don't know, what's your favorite of your lineup in terms of like, this is the one I connect with personally?
Yeah, ragged's always my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one because of when I used to run it, and then because Chad passed and I took it over. It definitely has. It was. I'm pretty sure that was I think it was my first ultra back in the day.
Yeah. So it's personal.
It is personal. Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And Colleen, how about you? As you're getting into it more and looking around and hear about other things, how far into your PhD are you? How much longer are you for sure in Mass?
Yeah, so I'm 2 years in, so 2 to 3 years to go. Yeah, it's an ultra of academics is what we could call it. But yeah, so I'll be around in Mass for a few more years, and then we'll see where we wind up. But yeah, we definitely want to, both my husband and I want to keep doing these sort of races. So we love it. We're sort of just now learning what's out there, what else is offered locally. And so we're really excited to start checking out some other races and meeting more of the community. It's just a fantastic group of people. We just love being around everyone.
Are you signed up for anything else this year so far?
The only thing else I'm signed up for is my husband and my dad and I are actually doing the Vermont 50 relay event. So it's the 50 mile just broken into a 3-person relay. So we're pretty pumped about that. That's just going to be a blast getting out there with family. My mom will be driving along, cheering us on too. So that'll just
definitely
be fun.
Does have the best crew. They come to ragged each year. They're great. They're fantastic.
Yeah, my parents were at every single aid station cheering, and they were helping other runners. They were giving them ice and water, and
that's awesome.
They're pretty special with the support there.
Are you a Mass native, or is it kind of in there?
Yeah. So I grew up in Princeton, Mass here, and then went to University of Massachusetts. I've sort of got stuck there. I did my undergrad, master's, and now PhD all there. So I've been out Western Mass for a while. So
Mass through and through.
Yeah.
That's gonna be scary times. You finish your PhD and they don't want to keep you at the same institution you're finishing your PhD. I don't know, maybe another UMass campus.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but so nothing else on the calendar yet, but definitely looking around for another race or two for the fall.
And Vermont 50, is that October? When's Vermont 50?
Last weekend of September. Yeah.
Last weekend of September. Yep. So you have enough time for Kismet Cliff, right? Because that makes it the weekend before.
2 weekends before. September 11th.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Yeah. That was one that's still on my bucket list, which as to Tom's point, where I was in the mix, but then bailed.
Well, we'll have to make a pact. If you go, I'll go. So
I don't know if I can hold that pact.
Let's go right now.
Yeah, come on, don't put me on that. Yeah, but you guys should probably definitely go run Kismet Cliff. Yeah, and then Tom, so you got Kismet and Vulcans. What's left in your?
And then I believe the pumpkin relay is going to come back. If it stays dry, we'll have pumpkin relay again.
And how's pumpkin relay go?
Pumpkin relay is so you do it's 2 people. You do 1.5 miles. You have one of the little mini pumpkins. You pass it off like a baton. They do 1.5 miles. You come back. You pass it off again. You do 1.5 miles. So each person gets a 5K.
Pepper. Not a pepper. A pumpkin.
Not a pepper.
I know you're a kinesiologist, but that's actually a green pepper.
It's a gourd, so sort of like a pumpkin.
It's a gourd.
It's exactly the orange ones. Yeah, exactly. So that's what that is. So last year we had huge rains in October, so we had to cancel just because the fields were so wet. We weren't able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Kismet, Vulcan's Fury, and then the Great Pumpkin Relay.
Have you seen the pumpkin? I don't know whether they're relays or just races. The paddling events that use the giant pumpkins.
No.
Oh, they're incredible. You get these record intentionally grown massive pumpkins, and then you just carve them out, and then you basically just have these paddling events where you try to paddle the thing across this
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They look incredible, and I would really like to put one of those on, but I have not yet. But Colleen, you should probably see if you can get Tom to put on a pumpkin one.
A paddling pumpkin race?
Paddling pumpkin in the context of the other one.
We were talking about doing a floaty race. It's like an anything goes floaty race. So you have like a floaty and you have to, float so far, go around the buoy and come back. That's the next on the list.
Yes, maybe as long as you kind of make your own floaty and it's not like a sanctioned watercraft.
No. It's got to be like the inflatable tubes, like, the unicorn or the swan or ducky or something like that.
Yeah, that's fine too. All right. Well, awesome. Well, Colleen, great job on a win out there. It's great to have you seen. I'm glad that you're having a good time, you and your husband and family out there. And I'd like to hear how Kismet Cliff goes in just a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks, Ian.
You'll be there, so it doesn't matter. You can just ask.
Gosh, I'm going to be at a meet. I'm going to be at a meet that day, but I know it's terrible. It is shameful. But Tom, always good to have you, man. I'm glad that it went well despite the conditions that were. So nice work.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. All right. So I'll talk to you both later. Thanks for taking some time out of your night tonight.
See ya.
Thanks.
All right. See ya. All right. So thanks for all those who tuned in live to this round of Trails Collective Live. I am going to be on vacation the next 2 weeks. I think Ellie has agreed to take on next week's Trails Collective Live. Good luck to all those that are doing whatever events this week, particularly in the eastern states. It's nice that you've got pretty mild conditions. Hopefully we can tune in to a couple people there next week. But good luck to everybody who's about that toe that line. And thanks to all those who joined us tonight. Thank you to all those who become Trails Collector supporters, either through liking the stations, sharing the videos, becoming a Patreon supporter. All of it is awesome. So thanks so much for being in the mix, and I will connect with you in a couple weeks here. All right. See ya.